Hi, everybody, and welcome to tonight's Access Studies live webinar. My name is Fiona Kelly, LYIT Marketing Manager, and tonight we're going to be joined by the team from Access and our Access Studies program. And we're also going to be joined by a current student on the Access Studies program and also a former student. And we're going to find out what it's like to study and to be part of the LYIT Access Studies program. So, first up tonight, we're going to be joined by Brian McGonigal. Brian McGonigal is in the centre of the Access office, and Brian, you're really, really welcome tonight, and I'm glad to have you. And we're going to start talking, I suppose, really in the context of access studies and the background of where it came from and how it evolved at LYIT.
Well, I suppose like all good things, the Access program took a lot of time in the making. It's been running now for over 20 years, and indeed over 2,000 students have completed it to date, which is an
Wow.
amazing achievement, really. It
Yeah.
was originally sort of designed for unemployed people, um, or and I suppose sometimes called early school leavers, people that may have only primary school education and went off to work, and then their jobs didn't work out or whatever, and they found themselves in the position that they wanted to return to education, but there wasn't really a route or a way for them to do that. So we sort of invented the Access program back then, 20 years ago.
Yeah.
And now it's sort of grown into a program that's really suitable for everyone that wants to return to education.
Yeah.
Um, and it's basically built around the educational foundations of maths, computing or ICT, and communications, because we see those three subjects or modules as being the most important thing for any student that wants to go on to do higher education.
And there's a number of intakes during the year because there's two, for anybody watching tonight, there's two options really with access at LYIT. You have the 60 credit program, which is known as the Certificate in Preparatory Studies, and then you have the 30 credit program, which is your Access Studies program, which we're kind of focusing on this evening. But it's a free program. And in terms of commitment, what are we talking about commitment per week for somebody who's maybe thinking, gosh, I don't know if I'm able to go back full time, but what would be
Yeah.
the commitment with Access Studies?
Yeah, we've taken that into consideration because a lot of people that are tuning in tonight have probably got family commitments and childcare and life going on for them. So to sort of ease their way back in, we look at 9 hours of attendance per week in class, 3 hours per each module. But then we also expect students to do some of self-directed study as well, and to do little bits of research and assignments and so on and so forth.
Okay, and the program itself, you mentioned open to adult learners, so maybe somebody who's a mature student thinking about return to education. You talked about early school leavers as well, and then also we talked about leaving applied students. So anybody watching tonight know that that's a route as well from LCA.
Yeah, LCA, Youth Reach, VTAC, PLC students, people that have gone through adult education, maybe with the Donegal ETB or whatever. Really, we're open to everyone. We don't think we're excluding any group or any
Yeah.
pathway for people.
Yeah, and the unique aspect of the program is that pathway. So when a learner completes the program, explain that, Brian. What is the pathway?
Yeah, so when people successfully complete the access program, it opens up an awful lot of avenues for them. The pathways then into everything that we offer here in LYIT, with the exception of nursing, because nursing is
Mhm.
controlled by An Bord Alphanis. And we have a couple of courses as well that we only have a limited number of places on, but they're only a couple. Um, in general terms, there's pathways to basically everything that we offer here. And
Yeah,
indeed, now, as we become a technological university very soon, or before this course will finish, we'll be part of a much bigger institution. So there'll be other programs open to students as well.
yeah, that's amazing in terms of progression pathways. And again, it takes that need then to apply via the CAO, that it's then direct entry, that the student is an LYIT student or future ATU student, and they don't have to go through the CAO system, that they come in through direct
That's
entry. Isn't that right?
That's correct. And again, that does take away from a lot of the daunting sort of task of
Yeah,
whether it's UCAS or CAO or whatever it is, because that can be a little bit disconcerting
yeah,
for people too that are out of education for a while.
for
So
sure.
it's great
And
having the
when
break.
When is this program, I suppose, intake wise now? When is the next intake, Brian?
Yeah, we're hoping, Fiona, to have the intake course starting on the 14th of February.
Okay,
So
so
it's
mid-February. So if anybody was
mid-February.
applying to the program, they would want to nearly be applying over the coming days. And how would they apply?
It's essentially, you'll see the contacts up there on the live webinar at the end,
Hmm.
but they can apply to the Access Office or the Curve here in LYIT. Or
That's
if they go onto
fantastic.
the web page, they'll see all the details there.
Okay, so we're going to change gear here a little and we're going to introduce one of the team in the Access program. And Brian, thanks so much for your time. And we're going to be joined by John Kearns, who's one of the lecturers on the program. So, John, I suppose, can you tell me, I suppose, why an adult learner who maybe has been out of education for a number of years would consider this program?
Well, hello everybody. Well, quite simply, it's probably one of the simplest avenues towards getting into first year in the LYIT. Simplest in terms of the time scale and the support you get then working your way through access. I myself went back to college as a mature student. So I have a good idea, as some of the other lecturers did, have good ideas of, what type of things are going on in the background for mature students coming back to education, and especially in terms of, I suppose, moving on and coming back to education can be scary in some ways. It's
Hmm.
quite brave to make a decision to move and try to go back on to college and access what we try and use the access program as a support for people, not just in knowledge academically, but also in terms of confidence.
Yeah.
Sometimes it can be quite a step up. You can be clever, good at things, and then you walk into a classroom and you may find that you think that you're not academically able. So you're thinking, "Gosh, I'm going into a big unit, big." Institution of learning, and at the access course we try our best to uh, have a good atmosphere throughout the classroom setting. It has to be a bit of fun. We
Yeah.
create a good atmosphere in it, and
Yeah,
uh,
and I think that matters. I think it matters, John, especially for somebody coming back. You mentioned about confidence and about, I suppose, returning to education can be daunting, especially, I suppose, someone who's been out of education for quite a while. What you mentioned just supports. What supports are there? So, say you're thinking, you're watching this tonight, thinking, God, I don't know if I'd be able to do this. I don't know. I haven't written in a long time. I don't know anything about computers. How would I even start or go about this? What supports are there in terms of the program?
well, the program is designed in terms of how, setting students up, and I know Andrea might talk a little bit more about the modules. Setting students up in a way to get that confidence from a beginning. So people do not have to be exceptional at maths. People do not have to have. In many cases, we have students who haven't really used computers quite often.
Hmm.
In my case, we start with getting study skills, basic study skills, writing skills, and our aim, I think, throughout the course is in terms of supporting students, is to our job is to set students up to not only survive the access course and get into first year, but also be prepared for the first semester of first year.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we try and set up a good ethos of support within the class itself with the students. The
Mhm.
access students are phenomenally good at supporting each other.
Yeah.
And then within the college itself, the students outside of the classroom have the lecturers themselves to talk to. We're quite a nice bunch. We meet for coffee and things. But also then they have the college services, the access office itself supports students through
Hmm.
various practices, whether it's just, support in general or dyslexia, things like that. And then
Yeah.
the students on the access course have the use of all the supports throughout the college.
Yeah. So they're here when they come to LYIT, then they have that, I suppose, full range of support services
Yes,
available.
absolutely. Yeah.
As you mentioned there, we're going to now move towards Andrea, Carolyn. We're going to talk to a little bit about, with Andrea, the modules
Hi,
that you'll cover. So, Andrea, you're so welcome.
thank you,
And
Fiona.
thanks for joining us this evening.
No
So,
bother.
Andrea, in terms of the modules, what would someone expect to cover if they were coming into the Access Studies program?
Okay, well, we'd cover three modules in this access program. The first one, the one I teach on, which I think is most important, is ICT. Sorry, John and Chris, is ICT, and again, it's just the computers. So in
Yeah.
that module, I take it as somebody in front of me has never sat at a computer. So we
Mhm.
kind of take the first class, we kind of get used to what the college uses as their VLE, which is known as Blackboard, which is their virtual learning environment. So we get the students log onto that and have a look around to see how other lecturers might prepare their work and so on. And then we look at the college email and the college services that are online, and maybe their OneDrive, which is a little slice of memory that each student gets on registration. And then we kind of move on towards Word, and which is word processing. And again, no prior knowledge is needed. We start very, very basic, and
Mhm.
then we move on to PowerPoint, which is a presentation tool, and then Excel. Now, a lot of people in our access programs already have seen these kind of applications, but I take the best parts that I think that you're going to need to
Mhm.
survive as your academic career goes on to your degree level.
Yeah. And
So
what
that's
you're
ICT.
highlighting in that too is the building blocks that they're going to need to
Yes.
enter the third level program, really. Isn't that right, Andrea?
Yes, and also there's an awful lot of fear, especially with mature students that have around technology. You know, it's kind of
Mhm.
that ethic thing, don't touch that, it's going to break. So we kind of try and remove that fear and to kind of let you kind of get into the system, and you can't break it. So we kind of try and let you build your confidence up with those packages, no matter what course you're going to do your degree in, you're going to
Mhm.
need to use computers and you're going to need to use the college BLE, which is Blackboard. So we spend a good bit of time kind of getting the students to have become confident in that, and
Mhm.
therefore then they can be confident they're actually a step ahead of the students who actually
Yeah,
start in September, because they're already
absolutely.
used to it for those 12 weeks of the program.
Yeah.
So that's just ICT, so
Yeah, and
and
you're
it
giving it,
really
and then the other modules you mentioned, so there's ICT and
And then there's Chris's module, which is maths. So Chris
mhm.
does a lot of maths with him. I'm sure Chris will talk a bit about that himself.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
he takes it very, very. He's an amazing teacher. Everybody loves Chris. Again, there's no such thing as you can't be good at maths. If you got Chris, that's not possible. So that's for you, Chris.
Yeah.
No, but I think he takes I think number systems, and Chris, I'm sure you talk about what you actually go into. Again, gets the students ready for any program that they're going to undertake in September.
Yeah, and I
And then
think the fact that you're talking about, I suppose, building people up, that's the
yeah,
key thing for anybody watching tonight, that
yeah,
you do not need to come in the perfect polished finish. That's the whole purpose of access studies. It's to allow
absolutely.
people to dip their toe into third level
Yes.
education. The final module then you're about to mention?
It's communications and study skills, and that's John that you just talked before I spoke. So he
Yeah.
teaches that, and again, it's kind of building the students' confidence up in their learning ability, and maybe looking at academic writing and communications, which is a big part of being a student, no
Mhm.
matter what program you go on to do.
Yeah.
So
So this
there are
very
three
much is
modules.
a preparation. So they're the three modules in the access
Mhm.
studies, but it's very much a preparation course to prepare you to enter a third level
Absolutely.
program then.
Confidence. It's all about confidence, and anybody who finishes this course and goes on to first year in September actually is a step ahead of anybody else even starting. They've
Yeah,
got
and
got
that's
confidence
that's
behind them.
important. That's important to highlight that, and we're going to speak to some of the people who are currently on the program and have come through the program, and we're going to talk about that as we go through tonight's session. Now we're going to move towards Chris McCallion. Thanks, Andrea, and
Okay,
Chris, you're
thanks,
very
Fiona.
very welcome, and thanks so
Hi.
much for joining us. So, Chris, you've delivered on the program in North and South actually, because the program has been designed also and adapted a little to suit students in Northern Ireland who maybe would have struggled to gain entry to LYIT because of a mixture of qualifications, A levels, and non standard A levels. But I suppose tonight I
Yes.
want to kind of highlight or zone in with you about the unique aspects of the program, why it is special. And as an educator on the program, I'd love you to highlight, I suppose, those unique aspects.
I think that when I started it, the one in the north, in truth, I wasn't really sure what I was going to go into. I knew the standard of both the vocational A level and the ordinary A level qualifications in the north because I trained as a secondary school teacher in the north. So I would
Hmm.
have been aware of that.
But I would like to take credit for this, but I can't because Brian directed me very well with the areas that I should look at, and it was a really good idea about looking at an opportunity because a lot of these people were coming with a really good standard of
Hmm.
maths, ICT, and communications. So what I tried to do then was I tried to customize the learning and learning outcomes that they were going to receive uh, based on what they're going to encounter maybe in the likes of their first year of their courses of their interest. So I was shaping up a syllabus following the areas that we were working in LYIT, but
Hmm.
maybe putting an enhanced amount of material on it
Yeah.
and certainly pitched at a more challenging level.
And for those people who are watching tonight from Northern Ireland, I suppose, why would this program be appealing? Anybody that's watching, I suppose, from the NI side of things.
But you see, the big advantage that they have, because of the level that they're currently studying at, we have customized that timetable for that it's not going to be additional work for them.
Hmm.
Much of the material they would be familiar with and probably even familiar at a level higher than they require to get in. So, they have the opportunity of uh, perhaps learning how to technically write, in the way that you're going to encounter when you're doing essays, in a way on first year, you're going to learn some of the additional topics on, say, hardware, software, on your ICT that I was
Hmm.
doing with them, and again, I brought in aspects of sort of maintaining their devices,
Yeah.
uh, and these are things that are all tools for them going forward.
Yeah. And the thing about it
Uh,
is, I suppose, for people who are watching tonight, we have the Access Studies Northern Ireland, and then we have Access Studies based on campus in Letterkenny IT. Going back to the
yeah,
campus program, the program that's based in Letterkenny IT, unique
yes,
aspects being, I suppose, small class sizes, that one-to-one support, and that ability to bring somebody who is lacking in confidence, or maybe thinks that they're not able to return to education, to go and do a 360. And I recently got the opportunity to speak with one of the students, Avine Sims, and Avine
yeah.
had thought initially entering the program, I'm returning to education, was a stay-at-home mum. I don't know if I'm going to be able for this, and now is thriving on a course at
Yeah.
LYT in
Mm,
applied computing
yeah.
third year.
Mm. Well, I would have taught a long time along with Andrea and with John, and you nearly know when you meet a student now, as their focus, and there's so many students appearing with a massive amount of latent talent that was never touched at. You know, like when I say, even for example, was struggling with decimals and fractions coming in the first term. Now,
Wow.
Paul Corey at computing described her as the best student that he's ever got through computing. Now, he's a
That's
vastly experienced computing lecturer, which shows the sort of transition that's capable. For the
yeah.
first 3 months, and for the first 3 months at the Access program with me, anyway, it's nothing but intense number work and number work techniques, and again, the Access, it's another point worth chatting about was the Access Foundation is probably going to change next year to an Access 1 and an Access 2 math.
Hmm.
Uh,
Okay.
Whereas in the new term, the topics are going to be guided based on input from lecturers in other subjects and input from statistics off the Math Learning Centre. So
Okay.
that would be
So
giving
again,
people a real
building
good ease in. Mhm.
a building. We're having a bit of sound issue here tonight, folks. So we're going to move now. We're going to move towards Maya. And Maya is a current student on the Access Studies program. So, Maya, you're very welcome and thanks so much for joining us.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, so Maya, let's talk about, I suppose, what you're doing and if you're enjoying the course. You're on the Access Studies program now. What do you enjoy the most about the program?
I guess what I enjoy the most about it is that everything is really broken down, like compared to secondary school where they kind of just tell you the end result and what it should look like. Through the Access course, they really break down the steps to get there to begin with.
Okay, and why did you choose Access Studies?
I chose Access Studies because it seemed like, well, the best option really that was nearby. I dropped out of secondary school after junior cert because of the pandemic, so I didn't have a leaving cert, and I knew I was gonna not gonna. I knew I wasn't going to do well in the leaving cert because I don't do well on exams. So having the option to
Yeah.
go through an access course and get into a full-time course seemed like the best choice.
Yeah, and it's a great pathway program. So it was your pathway towards
Mhm.
LYIT. Have you thought about, I suppose, your future plans now from this program, or have you even started to think about things like that?
Yeah, I've thought of my future plans overall. I plan on taking one of the computing courses. I believe it's called Computing and Math, and then deciding where I
Wow.
want to go from there.
That's fantastic. Well, there's so many avenues from that program. You could yourself be one delivering the program, access studies, and delivering computing and mathematics in the future. And I'll be taking you back on to do what Andrea and John and Chris have just done in terms of talking about the program. I suppose from the context of your own personal development, how has the course helped you? Like, has there been anything in particular that stood out in terms of since you started to where you are now?
Um, I guess the main way is that the way the access course is taught is a lot different from secondary level education. For one, it's more casual, and the classes are a bit smaller, so you have an actual chance to talk to the lecturers if you have a question.
Yeah.
And that process of again breaking everything down really helped me where I was struggling in secondary school. I've been doing well in same courses and access course.
Yeah. And if somebody was in your position now and they were thinking about, well, oh, I'd love to do something, should I return? Would you recommend the program to them?
Yes, I would because it really, even if it beyond anything else, it's just fun because just the way the lecturers teach.
Well, that's a ringing endorsement in terms of it, Maya. The fact that it's fun is always a box ticking thing, to be fair. Well, Maya, thank you so much for joining us. We're going to be joined now by somebody who's come out the other end and who started on the Access Studies program and is now in third year of her graphic and digital design degree. So, Natalia, you're so welcome. Thanks so
Hello.
much for joining us. So,
Hi.
Natalia, your story is so interesting, and I think better rather than me sharing your story, would you please tell us, suppose, your background and why you actually studied or chose access studies?
Yeah, sure. So I graduated from secondary school in Poland, and I got my leaving cert. But whenever I came to Ireland, it turns out that it isn't enough. It just my qualification didn't come across. So I was offered to do an access course, and it was simple as that. I just applied and I got in, and now on my third year on of graphic design. So
And are you enjoying now I suppose the progression, having come from access studies into third year now into graphic and digital design? Have you enjoyed that move or that transition?
oh yeah, definitely. That's basically my fourth year in LYT, and I'm still enjoying it. So I think that was just the best choice that I could ever make.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and it
basically, it really prepared me, and I wasn't anxious to go to my first year because I was already there in college, and I already, made some friends and just knew the place. So I think that was very helpful.
I think that's really important. And Andrea touched on that earlier when she was mentioning that you're getting to do things ahead of those going into first year. Like you're getting introductions to the systems, like she mentioned the learning systems, the VLE, and you're learning things ahead of your counterparts then when you join first year.
Hmm.
That's
Yeah,
a
that's
bit
what.
that's a big deal.
Hmm. I remember whenever I started, we had a first class with, I think it was photography, and we started off doing, okay, so this is how you turn on your computer, and then you log into Blackboard, and I was like, well, I already did that, so I can help somebody else. I don't need anybody's help. So yeah, that was great. It made me a lot more confident than I used to be.
Yeah, and that's the key thing, I suppose, is about what did you take from the program and confidence. And that's something that John and Chris and Andrea mentioned, I suppose, is it's building confidence.
Yeah, definitely. It's being surrounded by people, and also there's a constant support coming from the lecturers and from the students as well. So I think that was the most important part that I took from it, and also just making friends. And after the access course, I just already felt like I'm in student. society already. That this is,
Mhm.
it just felt like home. Just coming back to the first year then, and seeing all of the familiar faces.
And what are your plans now for the future?
Well, I'm already on my placement now, so the plan is to just get as much knowledge and experience from that as possible, and then graduate next year, because I'm doing third year, and there's also an additional year on my course, so I'll do 4 years, and then I'll probably move somewhere and just take my chances there.
Yeah. Well, we have a number of people watching tonight, and I suppose if they were to take your words of wisdom, would you recommend someone in a similar situation to yourself to do the program?
Oh yeah, definitely. I think there's actually two aspects of Access course that I enjoyed the most. First of all, people, because the lectures are just brilliant, and the constant support coming from them, it just makes you, their approach makes you want to stay in LYT and continue the education, because you want to be surrounded by them and you want to be inspired and motivated by them. And the second aspect would be probably how flexible the program is, because I remember I was working full time and I was also doing an Access course, and it wasn't overwhelming. It was just a perfect amount of hours to get you prepared. So I would definitely recommend that to anybody that that is thinking of going back to education.
That's amazing. You're such a great ambassador for the program, and Maya is too. And to get your, I suppose, feedback on the program is just real endorsement of the program, given that you've walked the walk when it comes to the course. In terms of then, I suppose, some questions, there's a few questions that come in, so I'd love to get everybody back on screen. And I'm going to kind of pick you out one by one if some questions have come in. So bear with me now. But Brian, question has come in. Maybe this person missed the question, but when does the program start? Could you remind people watching again when the program starts?
Yeah, all things being equal, it'll start on the 14th of February.
Okay. And let me see, there's another wee question coming in. How do we apply?
Yeah, you can go onto the college website, and you'll find the application form there. Or you can indeed, if you want to ring in and speak to somebody, you can ring in and speak to Anne Brennan, and I can give you her number now if you like. It's 07491 and she'll
That's
look after you.
fantastic. Thanks, Brian. And just finally, Brian, a question for yourself. What does a
Uh-huh.
student need to join this program? So there is no need. Isn't that correct? It's an open program.
Motivation only. Motivation.
Just a bit of
Yeah.
motivation. Andrea, a question for you. A student is concerned about coming back. Will I be able for this course?
Absolutely. 100%.
Yeah.
Myself and John and Chris will get you completely, build your confidence up 100% to be able for it. Give it a
Yeah,
go.
and I think that's important. And we heard
Mm.
Natalia talking about that today, but she was working and was able to
Mhm.
manage this program. So the flexibility of it. So John, another question that has come in. I'm going to ask you. I'm targeting you now with this one. But do many students progress on to the degree programs at LYIT, or do people
They
just
do.
exit?
No, the majority of students progress onto the courses in the LYIT. We've got quite a high success rate with that, with students moving on. I think that's partly because uh, the flexibility that the course, when it runs the Access course, the flexibility allows them. Also, at times we get them to meet. It allows them to meet up with other people. They're on the
Hmm.
courses in first year, and meet lecturers, come in and do talks in the classroom as well to get people ready for first year. So not only are they getting the confidence in the three modules that are taught on the course, but they're also being kind of almost integrated into the framework of the LYIT already. So
Yeah.
it's a natural progression into first year for most of the students.
And there's another question that's come in, and they're asking the qualifications are given, are they usable outside of LYIT? So, Brian, I'm going to put this question to you. Are the questions, can they be used outside of LYIT?
They can indeed. The qualification itself is at a level 6 on the qualifications framework of Ireland. So it does qualify successful students to go on and apply for courses at level 7 anywhere else. But we have some special arrangements with NUI Galway for people who want to go on and teach. It's a very popular thing. And also we have some arrangements with our counterparts in the University of Ulster as well.
Okay, that's good to know in terms of progression. So there's multiple pathways there, and as you mentioned earlier about becoming ATU, Atlantic Technological University. Another question that's come in on Zoom. You start the course in February. Does that mean that you would be starting the degree of your choice at LYIT this September? And I might put
Um,
that to yourself, Brian. Again, I'm targeting
yeah,
you.
yeah, absolutely, it will. What we find is that students that complete the access course in June or whatever, May or June, we always encourage them then to go on and start their undergraduate study the following September, because we find that they have a bit of momentum then, and it carries them through. Whereas if
That's
they
fantastic.
defer for a year or whatever, it's a little bit more difficult to come back.
Yeah, and as you say, it's building on the momentum. Chris, there's a question in for you asking about the Northern Ireland programme. So is the Northern Ireland programme delivered online?
It was delivered last year online. Those are options. Those are options
Yeah,
depending on numbers and also depending on the geographical spread of the prospective
spread.
students.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Mhm.
I suppose that's a watch this space then for the person that asked that question.
Yeah.
Natalia, there's a question in for you, or I'm going to put this question to you. What advice would you give learners thinking about returning to education?
The advice, I think the only thing you need to do is just to start the access course, and that's all you have to do, and just to join classes, and you can gain from that, even by being there. um, yeah, there's not much you have to do actually.
Yeah, well, that's good. That's good. Good advice. Start and take that first step. And then, last question that we're going to cover this evening is, Maya, what's your favorite subject on the course? Now, your lecturing team are here with you. It's wild pressure.
My favorite subject, it's a hard one to pick, but I'd have to go with learning skills and communication is personally my favorite.
That's good. That's good. So there you go, John. Well done. Fantastic. Well, folks, we've really kind of given a clear overview today of the program, what you expect to learn when we're recruiting for in the next intake, but also then the student perspective. And we've shown you tonight that I suppose there are so many ways to get to where you want to be, and that the Access Studies program is the program that will take you there. Thank you so much to Brian, to John, Andrea, to Natalia, to Maya, and to Chris for joining me. And if you want to find out more information in relation to Access Studies, as Brian mentioned, you can email anne.brennan at lyit.ie. You can email brian.mcgonigal at lyit.ie, or you can contact myself, fiona.kelly at lyit.ie. Thanks so much for watching, folks, and we look forward to seeing you again soon.